Former President Donald Trump has issued a new statement on Bud Light as we approach 1 year since the company found itself in the midst of controversy over a March Madness partnership that they produced with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. Now, Trump wrote on Truth Social, the Bud Light ad was a mistake of epic proportions, but Anheuser-Busch is not a woke company. Anheuser-Busch spends $700 million a year with our great farmers, employ 65,000 Americans, of which 1,500 are veterans. Anheuser-Busch is a great American brand that perhaps deserves a second chance. In response to Trump's remarks, commentator Matt Walsh wrote on X, Anheuser-Busch has not issued an apology, backing off of the most effective conservative boycott in history without even an apology would turn one of our biggest recent victories into one of our dumbest self-owns.
Bud Light might have a new spokesman. The company is partnering with comedian Shane Gillis. Gillis has been tapped to host Saturday Night Live in a few weeks, 5 years after he was hired and fired from the comedy show after clips of him using homophobic language and making an Asian slur surfaced, according to the New York Post.
So interesting to see Trump wade in here. And actually, I want to remind everyone, Trump Jr. said something very similar in the midst of the boycott, going, okay, have we punished them enough? Because Anheuser-Busch has given money to Republicans in the past. Matt Walsh was having none of it when Don Jr. did it. He's having none of it now. Like, no, not until there's an actual apology, and then still maybe not then. But interesting to see the Trump family are the ones who kind of are urging to ease up on the boycotting of our precious companies.
I said it before, I'll say it again. Money talks. These are all just business people making business decisions. But Anheuser-Busch is not a woke company. It's not a conservative company. It's a company that wants to make money. And if it thinks it can make money by hiring Dylan Mulvaney to do a TikTok, it will do that.
But it ended up being wrong about that.
It can make money by hiring Shane Gillis. It will do that.
So Shane Gillis, I remembered writing an article about this for Reason. I thought his firing was a pretty down-the-line cancel culture kind of thing. Yes, he'd said some offensive things. He'd said them on a comedy podcast where I think the bar for like offensiveness should be somewhat higher.
Well, let's just talk about what he said, just so people can judge for themselves. He was joking about why he dislikes Chinese and Asian people, Chinese food in Chinatown. He said, quote, why do the effing CHINKs live there? Get those ducks out of the window in an Asian accent, and then said that's more annoying than any other minority playing music on their loud phone. It went on to describe Judd Apatow and another comedian as white FAGGOT comics.
Yeah. As Andrew Yang said at the time, I believe in response to this exactly, I believe our country has become excessively punitive and vindictive about remarks that people find offensive, and we need to try to move beyond that if we can, particularly in a case where the person is, in this case, a comedian whose words should be taken in a slightly different light.
Look, I like Shane Gillis. I enjoy his stand-up. I think he's really funny. I also think that this feels more like an HR workplace issue. Are you going to hire someone to come and work at SNL who, in very recent history, had been using pejorative racial slurs in the workplace? I don't know.
I mean, on a comedy podcast, I think that's a little different than, going up to someone who is Asian or gay and yelling a slur at them. This is more like...
I don't know. I can't even remember the last time I even heard people use that C word. It's really reaching way out of the way to go dig up a slur from yesteryear in that context.
He wasn't deploying it as a slur.
There's a lot of things that I think are wiggle roomy. This one is kind of like a cell phone. Yeah, look, it's fine. He's got a great career. He didn't need SNL, and now SNL is inviting him to come back on. But that really does feel like it clearly crosses a kind of line. I think he could have gotten away with even the Judd Apatow, F-word usage stuff, but who says that?
Judd Apatow isn't gay, so it's not.
No,
right,
I'm not saying about Judd Apatow, but just generally using the F-word, I think he could have gotten away with. I don't know. Would a workplace, would any office environment where people have to be collaborative and there are people of the demographic group in that office that is being targeted by that slur, hire someone who on social media or wherever had been openly using a pejorative against that group? If
the person's a comedian.
Is Starbucks gonna...
I mean, again, I think.
If that's how you feel.
I think there's a difference between saying that word while you're telling, maybe it was a bad or unfunny joke.
He's talking about why he doesn't like Asian people. The joke is, this is why I don't like Asian people.
It's a routine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's different than going up to someone and saying it, and that there should be a higher bar for people engaged in expressive work, just like, you know, you wouldn't just like, you know, have pornography open or something on your laptop at work, but if you worked for like an art studio and there was a nude something, that would be different, right? It's like contextually dependent. I don't know. I guess we disagree. We will move on.
So in other do boycotts work sort of news here, McDonald's announced its first sales miss in nearly 4 years amid boycotts related to the ongoing siege of Gaza. As The Hill reported earlier this week, the burger giant says the low number is a reflection of the impact of the war in Gaza. During a Monday earnings call, McDonald's CEO Greg Kaczynski said the quote, most pronounced impact here is in the Middle East and with other Muslim countries, including Malaysia and Indonesia. The Boycott, Sanction, and Divestment Movement, or BDS, added McDonald's to the boycott list after McDonald's Israel gave away thousands of free meals to Israeli forces and citizens after the October 7th attack. Several franchise owners in the Middle East and Asia opposed that move. Starbucks, also a target of the BDS campaign, also lowered its sales forecast last week. So this is an interesting parallel to what happened with the Bud Light situation. It is, you know, this is like an equal playing field. The BDS movement has been reviled in the United States of America and criminalized in some instances. I've talked often about how Abby Martin fought and won a legal case when she was precluded from giving a speech at a university because of a rule that says that she could not be have a contractual relationship with I think a government institution, a state institution, if you supported the BDS movement. And yet it seems to be growing steam and having more success in light, I think, of the images that are coming out of Gaza right now.
Yeah, I mean, part of the, I think, inspiration for the boycott of Bud Light by conservatives is some of these, perception at least, or maybe successful in some cases, idea that left-wing and progressive people engage in boycotts and can influence policy in that way. I think they're learning from BDS.
Yeah, I think the difference is I don't think you're going to get Rashida Tlaib saying, because McDonald's donated to my campaign, I'm going to flip ideologically and decide to support this thing. But if that's what Donald Trump is going to do, it'll be interesting to see if that actually divides the base in any meaningful way, or like in most things, the base just follows him and whatever his whims are. Well,
I would still drink beer and eat McDonald's despite activists on all sides having conflicts with them, but I actually am not a big fan of beer or McDonald's, so I'm tacitly endorsing these boycotts without changing my habits very much. We will be back with more Rising right after this. Please stay with us.